Were you getting your cam set up and everything, or just
Well,
audio
I
today?
haven't. I'm streaming on my end too,
Oh,
and
whoa! You just got all you just got super robotic.
yeah. Well,
Oh,
I
there we go.
just started streaming too, so I was figuring out, can I have my cam on here as well as on my stream, or
Yeah, yeah. So use the virtual camera. Or wait, are you do you use OBS
I?
or what do you use?
Yeah. I see it. I see the virtual camera option.
Yeah, so if you do start virtual camera, then
Uh
in Discord you can select the virtual camera as your
huh.
camera
Oh,
to show.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Where would I do that? Like when I
Let's
turn it
see.
on, it gives me that option, or do I have to go to the
Yeah, if
options?
you go to user settings and
Oh, let me see.
video, voice and video, then you just select
Uh-huh.
uh, under video
User
settings, there's camera,
settings.
and it should say
Uh-huh.
OBS virtual camera.
Okay, let me see here. Video settings. Uh, let's see. Streamer mode. No. Game overlay. Where would that be? Profiles, privacy and safety, family center, authorized apps, devices, connections.
So it's in the so there's like user settings, billing settings, and app settings. It's in the app
Ah,
settings. It's called voice
oh,
and
app
video.
setting. Okay, let me see. So, oh,
In
voice and
yeah.
video. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
voice and video,
And
and
then
then
there's video settings like halfway down.
oh, I see. Okay, video settings. Test video. Camera. Yeah, that's the camera. And then there's an option to
So for
turn
camera,
on.
if you click on camera, then it should have OBS virtual camera. You might have to start the virtual camera in OBS first.
Oh, I think I did.
Okay, so that should show up then in camera in
Yeah,
Discord.
it's running in. Oh, so it should already. If I just since it's already on, if I just go to Discord and turn it on, it'll be okay. Let me just go
Well,
ahead and
yeah,
try
turn
it.
it on and see what happens. It'll
Cool.
do something.
Okay. Let's see. Bam. Uh, let's see here. How do I do it? Okay. Um, it doesn't seem. I don't see an option to turn my camera on. Oh wait, here we
Oh,
go. Duh. Let's see. Let's see if that works.
it's loading.
Yeah. Trying to troubleshoot here. No, I just turned it on, and so it's just doing this. Maybe I still have other options I have to mess with. I don't know.
Wait, what's your
I've never actually
let me look at your
channel.
Twitch and then I can see um, I can see you live and debug.
Yeah,
um, yeah, what's your Twitch name?
it's KFJ Sifu.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm on there. Like I could see
Okay.
myself in OBS
Mm-hmm. And you've got
and
the
the
virtual camera
virtual
started,
camera.
and
Yeah,
then
output select. Oh, maybe I.
so I'm trying to think if it's gonna be easier for me to try to show you if it's gonna be easier for you to screen share with me to look over your shoulder. But what camera is selected in the video settings for Discord?
Discord. It says my camera, the one that I'm using.
What's the name of it?
The
Oh, okay.
FDH camera. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So switch. So turn off your cam on
Oh,
Discord,
I see.
and then click on that and switch it to OBS Virtual Camera because it's not going to
Gotcha,
let
gotcha.
you use the same input
Oh, I
for
see.
two
I
different
see.
apps.
I
So
see
that's
what
the
it is.
workaround,
Okay.
is to like chain it.
Gotcha. Chain it. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. So let me try that again. Okay, so voice and video. Input device. It says no. Hold on.
No, you want further down.
Yeah. FDH camera. Go to, let's see, analog OBS virtual camera.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that should be good.
Okay, so now try turning on.
Now let's give this a try. Ah, there we go. Eureka!
Does it work for you? It's
Well, I
not
see
showing up for
myself.
me. Interesting. Okay,
It's
well
not showing
that's
up for you.
uh,
That's weird.
that means it's a different thing. Here, let me like. Oh, it just took a second. Okay, now it's here.
Oh, it
Hell
just
yeah.
took a second on your end. Okay.
Yeah. No, it worked. Okay. Very cool.
Man. All right, we figured it out. Thank you for that. By
Yeah,
the way.
absolutely.
Yeah. Nice.
And there's other advanced things you can do with that, but we can deal with that later if we need to.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Cool.
All right, cool. Yeah, it looks like we're
So,
set up.
Yeah. Did you have a particular oh, okay, yeah. So I guess it's Christian nationalism type of thing. Did you just have questions about it, or what's your position, would you say? Like,
Yeah, I
you know,
mean,
like if that's my position, then you would be, are you a secular humanist?
so the thing that I wanted to talk about was, and we don't have to talk about it, but just to say at least is you had brought up this. You had said nobody should bother you for being gay, but that doesn't mean it's good to promote antinatalist lifestyle.
Uh-huh.
And you're saying to gay people the same sex cannot make a child. That's accurate so far. In maybe 10, 20 years, maybe it'll be possible, but
Wow.
and he said pushing for degenerative lifestyle choices is antinatalist, and so that was the thing that was most interesting to me that I wanted to talk about.
Sure.
But obviously, I won't
Sure,
hold
keep
you to some particular conversation that isn't
No.
what you want to have.
No, yeah. You could start at any one of those you want.
So yeah, so I guess just to lay out for myself, like I guess give like a brief but as complete as I can, kind of my issue with that. So one is that I don't see some portion of the population deciding not to have children as a huge deal. I don't think that's an issue. I think if everybody decided to not have children, obviously that would be an issue. If 80%, 90% of people decided to do that, that would be an issue. I think if you could show that this is something that was likely to just kind of like massively explode being gay isn't a choice. There's people who choose not to have kids for other reasons. But if you could show somehow this is going to inductively, show this is going to lead to to a large proportion of the population not having kids, then I would be on the same page with that. The second part is that lots of gay people do have kids, either through sperm donations or through surrogacy. So it would be one parent, obviously, who's the father of the child, father or mother of the child, and then some outside party.
Yeah.
And part three is that lots of gay people adopt kids, and there's more kids that need parents that that are in orphanages than there are, you know, you know, there isn't a there isn't like a shortage of kids in the foster care system or whatever who need a permanent stable home. That's something that there isn't any shortage of. In fact, there's a lot of kids that really need that stability. And then part five is just, I guess, a pretty pedantic point, which is that antinatalism as a viewpoint is the idea that it's actually like not good to be born, or people individually wishing that they hadn't been born. So it's saying that like, oh, I don't believe this, and I haven't I haven't like thoroughly researched, but I'll try my best to accurately describe I think what it is, which is it's like, life is suffering, life is pain. Maybe I, or in general, people don't consent to be born, and so kind of forcing somebody to exist is like forcing them to go through suffering in the world, and so it's like bad to do that. I don't know how many people hold that perspective or hold it kind of, um, in as like a kind of ironic
Wait,
position.
if I could just clarify,
Mhm.
do you think that I think just existing as a gay person is the thing I take issue with?
Well, I want to clarify. You said degenerate lifestyle. Um,
Promotions of
mhm,
it.
mhm.
So it's like if you fall into a degenerate lifestyle on your own and you live that lifestyle, I don't really particularly have a problem with that. But if it's kind of if it's celebrated in mainstream areas or in schools or something like that, that's where I would take issue with it. I mean, that's just to clarify.
Okay, sure. So, yeah. So I guess like the two directions that come up initially for me when you say that, which you can try to lead me which of those is going to be more fruitful, is like, is the not having not having kids the degenerate part, or is it the the being in love with, or being sexually attracted to somebody of the same sex? Like, which part? I know there could be overlap, but like which
Right,
aspect
right,
of
right.
it is the degenerate? Because lots of people could just,
Sure.
who are heterosexual, could just decide to not have kids.
I could definitely answer all those. So there are Christians who identify as queer
Mm-hmm.
or gay, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that in itself is not necessarily a sin,
Mm-hmm.
right? Sin is the act of sodomy with another of the same sex, like a man with another man, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference there.
Okay. So it's just gay men having oral or anal sex with each other. That's the only part of it, or that's the primary part. That's the like main thing that you want to highlight.
The so as a Christian, when we see that, it kind of goes against God's asking us to go forth and be fruitful, because those types of relationships can never be fruitful in children through any natural means. It's a evolutionary dead end.
Okay, but it's so if somebody if somebody is gay, but they have um, a let's say they're married. So somebody is a man, they're married to another man, they love each other, they have different types of sex, and I don't know. This is a small point, but just to clarify, is it literally specifically sodomy, or is it like
Yes,
just okay? So if they're um, I don't know how
there's plenty
how graphic
of
to get on Twitch,
stories of
but
like there are lots of stories of brotherly love in the ancient world,
mm,
and there's nothing. there's nothing morally wrong with that type of love, like
No,
a type of.
I'm talking romantic, right? That this would be not like.
Sure, I mean, like sometimes it would, you know, there are some relationships you could look at in history that may come across that way, um, but may not have gone the full. You know what I mean? Like not the sex, like everything except the sexual attraction, like where it's strong enough to that they want to have a sexual act with each other. You know, like it could be on the level that deep, but yet not deep enough that they want each other sexually, if that makes any sense.
I don't think that makes sense because people can have casual sex and and not be
They
particularly
can.
deep,
That's
deeply emotionally tied to
right.
each other. So I don't think how
And that's not
deep it
something
is.
that us Christians are really kosher with either, right?
Right. But so to clarify, so it has nothing to do with the genetic dead end because a monk who takes a vow of celibacy, that's a lifestyle that is a genetic dead end. They'll never have kids. There's in your mind, is there something wrong with that? Is that a problem? Is that
Well, I'm not a Catholic, so I
well,
mean,
sure. I mean,
we're kind of
Catholics
yeah.
would. There's some weird
We don't take
semantic thing where
we don't.
Protestants say
No,
that
it's not.
Catholics aren't Christians. I
We
don't I
have
don't know if that's you,
legitimately
but
different. We have legitimately different
no.
rules
I know that
beliefs.
they're different. But it feels strange to me
We
that
don't
it's
take
not an
vows of
umbrella. But
celibacy.
that's a
We don't take vows of celibacy.
as a
We don't.
Protestant. hmm
It, yeah, we
But
don't.
there are
We
Catholic
don't.
priests who do, right? And
Right.
and before
Yeah, that's where that comes
Protestantism,
from.
right before Protestantism, those were the only Christ. I mean, there were already lots of different types of Christians at that point, right? But Protestantism is relatively new. So before that, 1,000 years ago, there were no Protestants, and there were Catholics, and there were monks, and some of them, some people were monks, and they were Christians, and they took vows of celibacy.
The
They lived
the
in monasteries.
Orthodox the Orthodox Church existed first, uh,
hmm
and then the Catholics
Yep.
split off. Yeah,
hmm But
yeah, yeah. We just have
but I'm just
these
asking,
these these
like,
are just
hmm I know that's not something that you would do because that's not part of your specific religious like culture or
now if you
understanding. But
if you ask this question to a Catholic, I'd be interested in
hmm
what answer they'd
well,
give
well,
you.
wait. So
But
so are you telling me that you actually can't evaluate it, or I don't quite understand your answer because I'm just asking if somebody is Catholic
like
or
I agree
Orthodox
with
or
you that it
whatever.
doesn't seem to make sense. You know, I agree with you that it doesn't seem to make sense to take a vow of celibacy
hmm
when God asked us to go forth and be fruitful,
So you would say that
right?
that's a degenerate lifestyle choice?
It's just well, it's not going. It's not necessarily that. That's not a rule. There's no rule against that in in Christianity, right?
There's no rule
There's not
against.
necessarily. Yeah, there's no. It's not saying that's an abomination. It just says laying with another man as you would a woman is abomination.
Okay, so the reproduction actually has nothing to do with it then.
Well, it's the you're basically so the difference is the person who's taking the vow of celibacy is
hmm
not having any sex at all,
Yep, that's
right?
accurate.
Whereas the people who are having sex and not producing an offspring from it,
hmm
it is just a wasted act purely for pleasure.
I mean, it's not only
Nothing.
for
It's a
pleasure if
hedonistic.
it's.
It's basically hedonistic, and it serves no purpose other
Hmm.
than just your pleasure.
Well, wait. So that's not accurate because sex between. So if you're talking about like very there are forms of very very hedonistic
Not
casual sex
individual
that,
pleasures. Yeah,
um, but
there's.
but
Mhm.
people have sex in relationships. That's more than just. First of all, more than their own pleasure. It's for their partner's pleasure. It's for intimacy. Some people consider it even kind of a spiritual interaction that they have. Yeah. Are you saying that you view just
Sure.
sex
But
in
have
sex
you
in
had a
general
you
as?
if you haven't entered a union to where you fulfilled your duty
Sure, if
of
they're
being
married,
faithful,
let's say they're married.
and also either in the process of or have already had children, then you have proven you've proven to God that you've followed what he had asked of you. Therefore, if you continue to make love with your partner, it is not a sin because you have done your duty, and everything you do
Mm-hmm.
with them is for the same loving reason you did when you produced your children.
Okay, so okay, let me see if I can pull this together. So okay,
That's fine.
yeah. So it's more like the. I mean, I'm gonna ask you some things, and I'm gonna guess what your answer is, but it, and then I'm gonna say I think that's inconsistent, and then we'll try to troubleshoot it. If somebody who's gay, you know, fathers a kid early in their life, they're 16 or something, and they knock a girl up, and then for the rest of their life after that, let's say the next day, or I don't know, when they're 18 or something, they marry another man, and they're in
Mm-hmm.
love and they're committed and they're legally and spiritually married and everything, but they don't have other kids. Um,
Yeah.
is that degenerate
Well,
because they
he
fulfilled
served
that
a
duty, they have
right,
multiplied.
right, right. But then has then now fallen out of that union that produced the children, right? You're not supposed to do that.
So okay, so it's also degenerate to, let's say, get divorced, which is interesting because you said that you're a Protestant, not a Catholic.
Well, more like a Eastern Orthodox Christian,
Oh,
to
you are.
be
Oh, okay, okay,
a
okay.
little more accurate.
Maybe I put
Yeah,
words in your mouth. Okay, okay, that makes sense then. Yeah, yeah. I was super confused
yeah.
because I was like, I thought that's one of the main distinctions. Uh,
Orthodox, right? Like, yeah.
okay, so
Um,
yeah. So you would say that it's a degenerate lifestyle choice. Well, basically Protestantism as such, the idea that it's okay to get divorced and end that union.
yeah, no. It's you made the union under God,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're now breaking the vows that you
Mm.
made between you, your partner, and God.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's like it is degenerate to then rip a family, have the
Mm-hmm.
family come apart. I understand that in the real world there are some things that just don't work out, and that I'm sure God would be like, yeah, that's fine because this is clearly not working, right?
Hmm.
But there are plenty of I feel like there are so many divorces that could be easily avoidable if they were just a little sturdier. I mean, it's gone up because I believe they're just not as hardy as our grandparents were in sticking it out. And I also kind of blame feminism a bit too, because if you look at the statistics, most of the women who I mean most of the people who file for the divorce are women, and they're usually no fault divorces. um
Well, that's
and
what we have,
that's
like,
you know
as an option in the United States, and it's easier than going through a court system to.
recently.
But that's something you would not want to have in place. You would want to have so you're not an absolutist about divorce. It's something that's like
Right.
would be it's a degenerate lifestyle. It's against the will of God, but it's kind of like, practically speaking, sometimes it's kind of a
If you're
necessity. Is
just
that?
leaving your if you're just leaving your marriage because it's a little tough sometimes, that's kind of pussy shit to me.
And that's kind of what it's
Wait,
saying.
sorry,
Of
sorry.
course.
Just an FYI, you're. I don't know if this is because you're also streaming at the same time, but your mic is like getting kind of robotic sometimes, and it's still
Oh,
possible to
is it?
understand you, but it's like,
Huh.
it's the kind of thing that could be
I'm
a latency thing. Um,
okay. It's kind of a new mic I was messing with. I might
uh,
just
okay.
exchange it because I've been having a little bit of problems with it.
hmm Now it sounds great.
So it's just
Yeah.
kind of okay. Maybe I just kind of moved it a little. Maybe it was too close or something.
Uh,
No, I don't know. You hear
yeah.
me all right though?
It sounds great now. It's like sometimes it kind of for like 10 seconds
Mhm.
at a time it gets kind of robotic and it's
Yeah,
still possible to understand you, but it's pretty wonky.
that's weird. Okay, it might be the dual streaming part that
Mm-hmm.
I'm just
Mm-hmm.
now doing for the first time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah. Anyway, so that part is kind of we think as degenerate, and then um, you know, getting a divorce is on kind of like a whim, or I mean, it just seems so. It used to take a lot more to end up in divorce than it
Sure.
does
That's
now,
that's
and
definitely
that
true.
that's another thing. That's definitely another thing.
Yeah, it's kind of degenerate. Yeah, especially since if you're raising children, um, they need to they need to have both parents. Both the husband and wife in that union are complementary to each other when it comes to raising kids. I mean, I believe that wholeheartedly, especially I believe that before being a family man myself, and I'm absolutely confirmed in that
Wait.
belief
now
now.
that I am.
Okay. It was robotic for like a little bit longer than usual, but it just went back to normal. I
Shit.
wasn't sure
I
whether to.
wonder.
I didn't want to keep interrupting you and telling you that it's robotic, but
I'm sorry about that.
someone's
Yeah.
saying maybe you're an alien and your voice translator needs charging.
Could
Uh,
be. Could be.
so, so
Sure.
I do want to pin you down a little bit. So you're
Okay.
saying that it's like a sacred union that you make to God, and it's degenerate to leave that union, and it's like kind of pussy
Just out
shit,
of
whatever.
convenience. It
Yeah.
depends on the reason. Yeah.
So, okay. So, yeah, can you.
If you left a marriage to go and be gay, that's like a double whammy kind of.
Okay, so yeah, I'm having a little trouble
Because the
understanding
because
it.
the children that you
Mhm.
produce, they need this structure. They need
Mhm.
this mother father structure
Mhm.
in order to be raised in the ideal way.
Sure.
So when you break that down, you rob your kids
Of a correct upbringing
Yeah.
that
They need two
that they
parents, either two
deserve.
moms, two dads, one dad and one mom. Yeah. Yeah,
Well, the
statistically
problem
better.
with that is that the problem with that is that you need, I believe you need to have one of the other. Someone once asked, what could the negative of a same sex like household be for children? Well, I don't know. One of the things I could think of is they only got one sex as both parents. They don't have any exposure to the other. That could be one thing that might be a little negative. I don't know.
Well, but they get double exposure to
Definitely
the other, so
true.
they're like they get right. I mean, that's a pro and con of anything, right? Um,
Yeah,
right. I
that's
mean, so they've actually done studies on this. This is actually a topic that I explored with Fnatic when we were doing some
fanatic.
co-streams
Yeah.
together, because he was
Yeah.
skeptical as to whether two moms or two dads could be as good as a mom and a dad. And we went for a while trying to find surveys that could answer this, ones that were different things that were
This is why I
critiquing
think
about the methodology.
fanatic took the cowardly road on that. He couldn't
No,
just
no,
admit
not at
he
all.
couldn't. Well, let me tell you
Okay, well,
why.
sure.
He couldn't just he couldn't just admit that it's because of his fate that he didn't like it or didn't think it was
No, I don't.
kosher.
No, I don't. I don't find that to be accurate at all. And
You don't think so?
yeah, I'll explain to you what happened.
You okay?
So yeah, we were looking for studies. Um, and I eventually found one that was kind of the holy grail, which was I think it was Norway. Um, Rather than kind of like random selection of different people, whatever, this was literally the entire country, everybody. So um, they were looking at outcomes for like all families. No selection, whatever, no opportunity for selection bias, um, and they were seeing that it was like the same outcome, for two moms, two dads, a mom and a dad, maybe slightly better for two moms, but I think not statistically significant. And he saw that and he accepted. And he was like, oh, cool, okay, now I know. This study seems very, very highly powered, very well put together. The analysis makes sense, and these are the results. And I don't want to get into anything about somebody else while we're talking, but that does seem to be statistically the outcome is that two moms, two dads as good as a mom
Yeah.
and a dad. Maybe two moms is slightly better. Um,
Or is it as well? So it depends on the outcome you're looking for. I think sometimes. I mean,
well,
I
sure, it's
definitely
the
think
yeah.
I have no problem with gay couples adopting,
Mm,
especially with the problem you pointed out, and that we have a lot of children without homes and
mm-hmm.
parents and stuff like that. Um,
What about gay
that's all
people
fine.
having kids?
What about what?
What about gay people having kids? Like having their own kids?
So, like if it, like if they eventually created like this type of Handmaid's Tale future where there's like a
Oh
bunch of
shoot!
women that
Spoilers. No, I've only seen the first three episodes. Is that is that part of it?
Just saying, that's just the plot. I haven't seen it, but I just know
Oh,
the
okay.
basic
plot is that there's a bunch of people who can't have children, like something in women went wrong, and most women in the world can't have
Interesting.
children. So then there's a few that can, and those that can are just kind of serve as surrogates for the elite and wealthy type of thing. I
Oh,
think that's
interesting.
the basic
Okay.
premise
Well,
of it.
it's been out for a while. I don't have any excuse for not being
Yeah.
upset about getting
My
spoiled.
wife watched it,
Um,
and then she started falling off of it because she said the later seasons weren't as good as the
mm,
first one, or something like
okay.
that. But
No, so I mean, we have technology right now where a
yeah,
woman can get pregnant using sperm, which is, you know, it's a pretty ancient
yep,
technology.
I'm well aware. Not
Right?
that ancient. Not ancient. Not as ancient as just like regular human to human intercourse. Woman
I
gets
mean that
pregnant,
uses
that type of
sperm
thing.
as
Yeah.
well, right? Uh,
Yeah. In the most direct way.
so is it degenerate to have kids without having sex? I feel like that's something that's coming up, but I'm
That seems like that seems like playing God to me. There's
interesting.
no update. There's no update to the Bible in regards to technology, but there's something I get a bit of like an eerie feeling about that type of. Do you remember this book or this movie called Gattaca? I think.
I do. Great movie.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to the theme of the movie kind of points to kind of here's an interesting question that I kind of held for people in favor of abortion.
Mm, okay.
Um, I believe that we're probably a tiny change away in technology from maybe liberals being against abortion and conservatives being for it.
Mm, okay.
So what if we were to develop the technology to get a reading from an embryo developing in the womb or whatever,
Hmm.
and we would know whether they would become trans or gay due to their brain scan.
Look, I mean, this is not
And then,
a new conversation. This
right.
is right. I mean, I remember this conversation coming up like 10 years ago, and but this is already something that gets applied when it comes to say Down syndrome, right? So that's something
Uh-huh.
that you can test for early.
Mhm.
And it's, with something like that where, you have some level of um, physical debilitation, some kind of physical disability. It's not a trivial conversation to have. There are people who have Down syndrome who speak out
Mhm.
against. I think it might be Sweden. I think maybe has like massively performed abortions against kids who are going to have Down syndrome. I think it's Sweden, and that's something that a light has been shone on. Like, okay, this is actually a
Mhm.
pretty complicated moral issue, um,
Well,
or or
well, what do
or
you think
even
about this particular?
or even in China, where a lot of girls were aborted when there was it the wait it was one child policy, right? Just
Yeah.
one child, and it's
Hmm.
like boys are kind of prized, and so there was
Uh-huh.
a mass abortion of females.
So,
So
well, how do you feel about this particular prompt that I've given you, where abortion is used as a eugenic, like a
mhm.
way to kind of eugenics away the gay and trans?
Yeah, I mean, I think um, I think with something, so these are different issues. So being gay doesn't carry with it some kind of disability, right? This is
Sure,
something
but
that
I'm
people,
what if
well,
people don't want to have
well,
a
I'm
gay
answering.
child?
Well, I'm
And
answering,
okay,
right? So being gay doesn't carry any kind of disability. You might be bullied, you might be attacked, you might be murdered by your fellow countrymen because they're homophobic and they're hateful. That's some. So you might be in danger from the people around you in the same way that if you were Jewish in Nazi Germany, your countrymen might try to kill you. But being Jewish isn't a disability. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing that's like makes your life harder in itself, other than just the way people treat you. When it comes to being trans, if we're talking about somebody who experiences like body dysmorphia, that's something that carries with it potentially some kind of medical implications. Although there's a question as to how much um, body dysmorphia slash like gender dysphoria might exist in a world that didn't have such strict gender roles. So even something like that is certainly less clear than something like Down syndrome, where it's not only societal issues for something like Down syndrome that can make that a disability. Um, I would say with something like that, I think it would be immoral to do that. On the other hand, the type of person today who would be likely to work very hard to find out if their kid might be gay or trans and then want to abort them, I would say they probably wouldn't be a very good parent to them in the first place. And then there's kind of like an
So it's a
important,
good thing that they would do it, right?
well,
Because they
there's
wouldn't give
so
the parent
there's mhm.
to that individual. So why should that?
individual have to suffer a life with that parent, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's not. I think that's something that can't be dismissed. The important caveat to that is that a situation like Sweden, for example, where people are kind of en masse convinced to abort their kids if they're going to have Down syndrome, um, if that were to take over as an idea of just like people were doing this en masse, I think that would be something that would rise beyond the level of kind of like an individual choice to do something that I think is less than perfectly ethical to something that could be like a real problem or kind of an attempt at a genocide. I guess technically that would be absolutely.
It would be, but hold on. How would it be a genocide if by your worldview, they're not even. Oh well, I guess I should clarify first.
Mhm.
Do you believe that abortion is taking life?
It's taking a life. I don't think it's a I don't think it's a conscious human being in the full way that we think of in the full way that we think of another human person.
But okay, but
But
you're
it
okay with
obviously is
saying
a
that.
life.
So
It's
you're okay
alive.
with saying that it's killing something.
It's killing something
You're
for sure.
killing. Well, it is a human, right?
Sure, it's I mean, it's not a
You're
human.
killing a human.
It's not a human person, right?
I don't really nobody when we
So if you
I
right, so
personally don't care about.
if you
Yeah.
do this, you're killing those cells. They're human cells, and you're killing them, but they're not human people, right?
It's never going to be a. But those when
I'm
I
not
do
I'm
this
I'm not
method of
equating
killing.
that. I'm not equating that to an abortion. I'm just saying that
Okay.
as you've stated it, you haven't made a distinction between those things in your language, and
No,
that's
but
all
well,
I'm highlighting.
okay. Well, the distinction here is that the fetus that you're killing is going to be a human if you leave it alone.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what? So what's the immoral part? If because if you're saying that that's immoral, then then that means abortion in itself must also be immoral.
No, I think there's a big difference between saying I'm not ready or just in general don't want to be a mother, father, etc. There's a difference between saying that and saying I think there's a certain type of person who shouldn't exist. I think those are
Okay.
fundamentally different.
All right. So what if they find out that their fetus is going to be gay or trans or
Mm-hmm.
whatever? They decide they don't want that, but the reason they ask for an abortion is simply because they're not ready.
Yeah, yeah. That I don't see anything wrong with that. No.
So they're doing it for the same reason. They're just lying.
Well, wait.
I mean,
I'm not talking about like me interrogating people and finding out. I'm this is just
no, I'm
what their
saying this is
motivation is, right? I'm not suggesting that we set up some kind of interrogation to say, well, why are you having this
I
abortion,
understand.
right?
I understand, but I'm just saying people can just walk around this morality this moral barrier that you put
well,
in front
they
of doing
they have whatever motivations they have, whatever they say. I I don't under,
They could lie about their motivations, though. That's what
to
I'm saying.
to whom to whom are they lying?
To whoever, if they take a statistic on it, or the doctor asks them or why they're
Mm-hmm.
getting this procedure or whatever, and they don't want to say
Mm-hmm.
it's because I don't want to have a trans child. They don't want
Mm-hmm.
if they don't want to say that because it makes them look bad, or they
Yep.
don't want to get canceled, whatever.
Yep.
And instead, they just say that they're not ready.
Yeah.
the reason-
Okay. I think I get what you're saying. Yeah. So.
What if they just did
Mhm.
that en masse,
Mm-hmm.
and the same result happened? They just genocided all the and whatever. I don't
Mhm.
want to finish that sentence. But
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a fundamentally different question, which is it possible this could happen? And wait, are you still there? Okay, you're back. Yeah.
Here.
Yeah, your video was just frozen for just a second. Okay. So this is a fundamentally different question, which is it possible that people could do this thing and we wouldn't like it wouldn't show up in like certain types of surveys? That's absolutely possible, but I don't think that has anything to do with the morality of it, right? Surely that doesn't matter.
Would you ever know? How would you ever know that they're doing
something
Mhm.
morally wrong if they're never giving you.
Well,
the
how
real
would
reason
I
they're
know?
doing it?
I'm not saying.
I'm just saying you can't check if this just happened,
Mhm.
and for all the same for all the cases,
Mhm.
they just said they weren't ready, but the same result. You got the same result as if they just said, "I don't want a trans kid,"
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Where's they just used a different reason to get the procedure. So what moral there no moral wrong done in the case where they hid the reason that they actually didn't want to have a trans child and instead lied and said they weren't ready?
I think somehow we've
Is it no longer
yeah. I think somehow
yeah,
we've
is it
gotten
no
very
longer
confused
immoral in
here.
that world?
I think we've gotten very confused here.
Well,
If
I'm just trying to
yeah,
clarify
yeah,
what
yeah.
your
So
view is.
if
Yeah.
I murder somebody, in the woods, and nobody finds out that it was me, is it immoral? I think it's immoral, even if I'm never caught. Yeah, I fundamentally don't understand what you're asking. I don't think it matters whether we know, other people find out about something. It's still immoral if you murder
No,
somebody, if you do something that's wrong. I don't think it matters whether
right.
other people know about
But
it.
I'm saying if
Surely.
we find it, we're talking about how can we create a system where that doesn't happen, and basically, and the answer is basically we would have no way of
Wait,
stopping it, right?
no, I didn't say that. Why are we talking
You,
about this? I don't understand how we got on this topic.
oh, because I was asking you that. Well, because
I think it would be
I brought up a
immoral, but I'm not
hypothetical.
talking about like putting a system in place to prevent this. We could talk about that if you want, but you just asked me if it's immoral. I didn't say anything about how we would know or how we would prevent this or whatever. I
Okay,
just think
okay,
that
I see what you're
situation would
saying.
be immoral,
You're
right?
just saying, right? Okay, I
If a
understand.
bunch of
So
people were
you're not
murdered in the
putting.
woods and we didn't know about it, it would still be immoral. It's just, oh shoot, okay,
Okay,
how would we know? How would we prevent it? Okay, those could be complicated, maybe.
okay, you
Yeah.
think it's immoral, but you still agree with me that there would
Would
be
be nothing really we could do about it, or do you think we could do something about it?
No, I mean, so what I was talking about less than if a bunch of people out of the blue all suddenly decided to do this, like very very covertly without communicating with each other, maybe we wouldn't realize until
well
you
just
know,
because the technology became available, right? Like the
yeah,
technology became
like
available.
they're using
Now
Signal,
suddenly they're
whatever, to
yeah.
communicate about it. Well, I'm talking about like a kind of like cultural trend spreading where people do this. That would be the kind of thing. So that's why I was talking about Sweden, where it became a thing where it's like you go into the doctor and they're like, oh, you've got a child with Down syndrome, like, you probably want to abort it, right? It becomes like kind of the default. That's
Mhm.
more the situation that I'm concerned about. If individual people decide to do that,
Yeah.
um, I think that's an imperfect moral choice on their part, but I don't think it's like a massive kind of societal hazard if like some number of people
Okay.
who probably weren't going to be very especially capable parents to those kids in the first place. I think that the kind of damage on those relatively like one-off cases would be pretty minimal. It's more like if this became a large trend and then we're like, wow, the numbers of gay and trans people being born are suddenly plummeting or something. Like, what's
All
going
right.
on, right?
Well, look at the theory. Look at the theory work in Gattaca, right? When given a choice, how do most of the kids come out, right? So, if they don't want if I could just, if I could say it's all for perfectly moral reasons, right? What if for me it's I just don't want my kid to have a hard life,
Yeah, so that's
right?
so the best movie that talks about that is actually not Gattaca. It's you may have seen this. I think this is like it's got to be like maybe early 2000s. The Family Stone.
Hmm.
I can send you a clip
The
from it.
Family Stone.
Yeah,
Okay.
The Family Stone. There's like one. Uh, it's like a great.
Yeah. While you're finding that, I
I think this might be it. I think this is it.
but the reason
That's
I
these
brought
these
this
two clips. Yeah.
hypothetical up
Hmm.
in the beginning was because you kind of appealed to technology in a future that like where you would think that technology would be more beneficial towards granting children for gay couples, and so then I gave you kind of like a counter future
Hmm.
where technology could actually cause the extinction problem or gay and trans people.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yes, so this is something not exactly this, but pretty close to this. Is something that I've talked about, debated about, done tons and tons of streams about because this is something I'm hugely concerned about when it comes to bioengineering.
Mm-hmm.
And there's ways that we can do this, not just on like a, kind of individual aborting a specific embryo basis, but on the level of actually, changing the human genome. This is something that is kind of a train headed toward us as a massive, massive moral dilemma that's now, becoming possible as a kind of lever that can be pulled to be able for, potentially some classes of people to become healthier or smarter or whatever, for class inequalities to
Seems kind
become
of
baked
scary
in.
for me. It seems
Yeah,
kind of like a Pandora's box,
yeah, it's
that
it's very
gets
scary for
open.
me as well. Yeah, I think this is a huge, huge issue that I don't think we're um, putting enough kind of practical
The only
safeguards.
benefits I could see is in curing disease and
Yep.
cancer, maybe.
No,
But
I mean,
yeah,
there's absolutely very clear, very kind of unambiguous positive ways for this technology to be used. Congenital heart disease, right? There's or pediatric cancer, or there's all kinds of things where
right.
some kind of bioengineering to knock out just a clearly, even like deadly disease is something that we have to be extremely careful about
Yeah.
the actual technological aspect, that we're not destroying something else when we
It's
when we wipe out
really
this disease.
selfish. Yeah.
But there's so many moral questions when it comes down to exactly. I mean, Gattaca does a beautiful job of displaying this, of like, well, how are normal humans going to compete?
Legends,
For example.
I Am Legend.
Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
where
It was
it's
like a cure for cancer initially. That then
yeah,
yeah.
and then fucking goes super south. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, those are definitely two
hmm
possibilities, which is why I just feel like we should stay away from it
Well, wait. So
altogether
there's.
until we
hmm
figure out whether or not the path we're going down is going to be good or bad, because I think going down that path without thinking long and hard about what could be at the end of it is the mistake.
hmm
I don't I don't think the answer is to never go down that
hmm
path. I think we
Yeah.
need to definitely think about the outcomes, kind of like they did with the atom bomb
hmm
when they thought
Or
that
what they
was a
didn't do.
possibility. Well, yeah, there was a possibility that they could ignite the entire
hmm
atmosphere, right?
But then when we boil it down to a point, 0.0001% chance or whatever, then it seems like okay to go ahead. Or it still wasn't a 0% chance, and they
hmm
still
Went ahead and did it.
If
That's
we
still
press this
kind of
button,
scary, right? Like,
all life on Earth dies. Yeah.
yeah, and it's
Um.
like something they were willing to do,
hmm
and that's scary to me, right? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like we should know a 0 or 100% chance
hmm
on this particular thing before we
So
go down that road,
so
in my
there's
opinion.
yeah. So there's nothing with technological advancement that we ever have a 100% chance that this won't be misused, or won't lead to something horrific. I think it was like the same, like
Well, the
technology
consequences get
for.
heavier and heavier as the technology gets greater and greater, right? Now
Yep.
all of a sudden we have a greater and greater cost to what might, so it's like when cars came out, what's the
hmm
cost of cars? Well, eventually they might make the air a little dirty, right?
hmm
Something like that. And but now it's kind of like, well, what's the cost of AI? Well, it might like implode society or something like that. Like,
hmm
it's catastrophic. Now these technologies that were cover catastrophic possible, outcomes.
Yeah.
So I
So
think that's why we
think longer and harder because they get
bigger and crazy.
so that's something that I'll pretty much never disagree with when it comes to new technological development. I don't know if there's many technologies out there that I can say like, oh, I'm 100% comfortable with the level of ethical thought
Yeah.
and safeguards and kind of like organizations that are monitoring and have some kind of teeth to shut down. I mean the doctors that have already applied CRISPR to, there's the doctor in China who actually applied this to human embryos who were then born. I don't know if you're aware about that.
No.
So there was a doctor in China who I believe was already like discredited for some reason. He worked in a hospital. He told these parents, but didn't actually do informed consent and fully explain the procedure, that he was going to do this novel thing where he would make their kids, I don't know if it was one kid or a couple kids, more resistant to HIV. And the basic science of what he's talking about made sense. There's certain mutation that makes you more resistant to either contracting HIV or to it to expanding into AIDS. And I don't know if it was ever confirmed whether this was successfully applied, but he used CRISPR to actually edit the genome of this, embryo or embryos, of these parents that then was actually born. And there's an enormous, international outcry, because this is like, pushing the technology so far past, not only ethical when it comes to, the kind of broader philosophical questions we're talking about, but obviously in terms of informed consent, in terms of, just technologically, this isn't something we've done on, like mice and rats first for this to be something that we can say like, oh, this is like even remotely just safe from a technological standpoint. I think that kid might be doing fine. I'm not sure, but that's an enormous ethical breach in 1,000 different domains, and that's really, really bad. So I'm with you. I'm with you on those concerns. I want to pull this back to the specific technologies that we're talking about, which can be things like a turkey baster. They could be things like, it could be even just sex. So two gay women who want to have a kid. Sex. Sorry, your video is like going totally bonkers. Yeah. I mean, it looks cool. It's very Max Headroom.
So out of wedlock sex?
Sure, yeah, but for the purposes of procreation and then raising a child, which
that's it. You gotta take step 1 before you get to step 2, or else it's
degenerate. Okay, so sex out of wedlock is a degenerate lifestyle that you are against. Okay.
Yes.
And even so, if a couple has sex and then gets married the next day, and they stay together and they raise that kid.
You said sex out of wedlock?
Sex out of wedlock, yeah.
I would say having a child out of wedlock.
So what do you mean when you say having a child out of wedlock?
Like when the kid is born, you're not married.
Yeah, so two people get married. One of them has sex with somebody, capable of producing sperm. They get pregnant. Not the husband.
Not the one they're married to.
Yep, okay, not the one they're married to.
No good.
So
violation of the union.
Right. So okay, yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So if two heterosexual people have sex and then get married and raise that kid, that's a degenerate lifestyle, and you're against it.
No. If they're married before the child is born. Before
it's born. Okay. So they have sex. So heterosexual couple has sex.
It used to happen all the time.
Nine months and a day. Right. So somehow, I don't know, the mom's still recovering, the priest comes in, marries them, whatever, their friends and family. That's a degenerate lifestyle that you're against. And you think anything that pushes that lifestyle, supports it, you think is wrong and should be pushed back against.
If you have a child, if the child comes into the world and you have not committed to a union in with the purpose of raising that child, that is degenerate.
Yep.
if you start later, that's not a, that's you're atoning basically.
Hmm.
It's fine.
Okay, so it's
If
fine.
you atone by uniting in by having that holy union for the purpose of raising that child, then you have fixed the problem.
Okay. So if somebody um
It has to be with the person that you created the child with,
why?
because that is the purpose of the union.
What do you mean? No, it's not. The purpose of the union is to raise the child effectively. It has nothing to do with the particular person who you
Yeah,
had.
your child,
Yeah.
the child that you both conceived.
Hmm.
You now have to marry. That you need to
Why?
create that union because you're the ones who created the child.
Why does that matter? Why should anybody care? Why do you care?
Why does that matter?
Yeah, why does it matter?
That's the rules.
That's okay. So
Yeah.
there's no justification other than just like this is what you believe
This
religiously
is
or
how Yes, this is how God told us to go forth and prosper and be fruitful, and so far it's worked pretty well.
yeah, yeah, I mean it's
You-
worked pretty well, but it's
then
worked pretty
see,
well
yeah,
with
so
it's worked pretty well with
why would you
gay people
reinvent the
having kids as
wheel?
well, right?
Well, you can't produce a child
Of
between
course you
two
can.
gay. But like without any science on a desert island, if I just drop off
Oh,
two
okay.
men
I'm
that come
gonna
back
give you a
with,
moment
yeah,
to revise your statement before I point out what's wrong with it.
Can two men make a child?
Two men cannot make a child. That's correct.
right. Can two women make a child?
No, that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
but two gay people can make a child, and two gay people of the same sex and one person of another sex, or a sperm donation, or a surrogate can make a
Right.
child, right?
Like, well, we're still
And they
we're
could
still
raise that
skipping
child, and they can be married, right?
we're skipping the steps here. The according to our divine command, the steps are to be married with the person that you're having the child with.
Where, uh, what are you drawing that from specifically, like in the Bible?
You want to know like a
Yeah,
specific?
just to see like the original source in terms of what, um, I think that would help me understand where you're
Okay,
coming from. Yeah.
I've read that in a. So you're saying the union between a man and the woman for the purpose of raising a child. Where is that in the Bible?
No, no. I'm saying
No,
um, you that you saying that the purpose of people
for
being married
marriage.
is
Yeah,
only to raise so the raising of the child by exactly the two people who are the um, genetic progenitors of
that is
that
the
child.
primary. Yeah, the primary reason.
It's not about raising the child well. It's not about anything else.
It's about your dude. Well, I'm not a utilitarian, so
Hmm.
that I go according to Christian duties.
Hmm.
That's a duty.
Well, okay. So I mean, if let's say I don't think this is a central thing, but I'm just curious, like how consistent this is. Um, if two wait, so but you're saying it's forgivable if people don't do this, right? So if two women, one of them, two women are married, one of them has sex with somebody else, and they're all consenting. It's not like an adultery thing or whatever. They're like, yes, this is what we're doing in order to raise a child. She has sex with a man, and she gets pregnant, and then those two women who are married raise that kid. Okay, maybe that was a sin. I don't know, but they've repented. Whatever. They're raising the kid. They're married. They're in a union. They're raising that kid together. That's not actually a big deal, though.
The one that
It's
it would
okay.
seem like through the eyes of God that the one committing the sin is the one who cheated on their partner that they
Well, it wasn't cheating, right?
well not subject to them maybe, but we're
Hmm.
in Christian
To God, they were cheating.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So okay, so before they're married, woman has sex with
That's one.
man, and
Then the
then
other,
and then
there's
those.
like multiple offenders here
Wait,
in this
who's
scenario.
offending?
So the one having sex with the lesbian person
Wait,
that
why
chooses
are they
to
offending? Why is? Oh, because yeah, because it's sex before wedlock, sure.
Right.
But you said if they're married by the time the baby's born, not a big deal.
But the you're the other person is basically a cuck because
Sure.
that is not their
Or they're.
child,
It's
right?
kind of.
So
I mean,
they're,
kind of nobody is a cuck, right? Because
well, I mean, I meant like as in the bird, like the
because
actual.
technically, like the two women would be the cuck, but they're super happy. They're raising their kid together. They're married, right? So it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, they got what they want, like, right?
So here's the problem.
The
Here's the
cuck is the
problem with
person who's
that.
raising the kid, right?
Yeah.
But they're very happy about it. This is what they wanted. This is their objective,
Would
right?
you say that the children that are raised in same-sex households um would they be more like have warmer attitudes towards gay lifestyles?
Wait a second? Would people who are raised in same
Would
sex?
Who are raised in same-sex households, would they be like more willing to celebrate gay lifestyles?
I mean, it would somewhat depend on how their childhood went, but yeah, I would say overall
Would you just
probably
say
more so than
overall?
average.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So yeah,
And
that
people
would
around
be
them, right?
okay. Yeah, that would
Anybody who
be
sees it would be like, yeah, they're really happy. Their kids raised really well. Their kids doing awesome. Yeah, this is great.
yeah. So obviously we would say that's not so great, right?
So why is that not
Um,
so great? People raising a kid, kids doing great, everybody's happy.
well, so they wouldn't be able to produce as many kids as a heterosexual couple. Heterosexual couples
they
can have like
no, they could have
crazy
way more
amount of
kids.
kids.
They could have twice as many kids. They could have
What's that?
exactly double as many kids.
Who's that?
Two women, right? Because that's one
That could have
kid per
been.
10 months. That's It's
I
literally
think
twice as many.
on average,
the people with the most largest families,
Would they be Catholics? I guess probably,
offspring,
right?
largest amount of offspring are going to
Yeah.
be heterosexual on
Yeah. I
average.
mean, on average, probably, yeah.
Yeah. So we
But
wouldn't want
but
to.
I think people who are like, I mean, if this is your thing generally, just like people need to be having as many kids as possible. They shouldn't get college educations. They shouldn't be like middle
Oh,
class or
that's
higher.
pretty loaded.
Well, wait, why is that loaded?
Kind of loading it. That's kind of loading it a bit because I never said any of those things, right?
Well, you're saying that on average they have more kids, and that's I guess I'm inferring something from that. But you think it's good if somebody's having more kids, right? That's
Yeah.
desirable. Okay.
Yeah, we kind of need that right now. We're facing kind of a crisis in our birth rate. So I don't think it is one thing I have a problem with Christians are a little too meek these days, and I don't think we should just roll over and die. Um, and I think when we stop serving the duties that we were put here in place to do, then our humanity starts like collapsing, and that's not good. So we have to start, doing something and speaking up and not just being quiet about what we believe.
I don't think
You know,
Christians in
we
America have yet decided to start being quiet. I don't think that that's happened
they're
yet.
pretty meek. I feel like they're being pretty meek these days, and that's why a lot of this
I
stuff
mean,
is allowed
uh,
to fester.
I mean,
Because
abortion rights were just overruled, right? I don't think they're being so
that's
quiet, right?
not any that's not based on any religious
Of course it is.
argument. No, the judges themselves put forward their reasons why.
Sure, but the people who voted for example, Trump, who made these appointments, those are I don't want to say like entirely or probably almost entirely, but I think it's fair to say the vast majority is from a religious perspective, right?
Is it our system you don't like?
No, I didn't say anything about that.
Okay, well, that's how our system works.
Yeah, but I did.
Yeah.
I think you're
We're a
confusing.
majority-
Wait,
we're a majority
wait. Stop.
nation.
Wait. I think you're confusing me drawing logical comparisons between things with an entirely different kind of statement. That's me saying, I think this is bad, so it shouldn't happen, or something like that. You were making the claim
Okay,
that
I see
you
what
were
you're
making
saying.
the claim exactly. You're making the claim that Christians are not
What's
speaking
wrong
up,
with it?
whatever, right? And I'm saying that they're clearly making their voices very, very heard, and it's resulted in some direct like court action, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like, oh,
Okay.
we should overrule
Well, you can see
democracy
where-
or the three centers of power. I'm saying that this is clearly not Christians being totally on the back burner or whatever, not making their opinions heard. I don't think that that's accurate.
Well, they were,
but that's pretty
when
subjective,
Roe
I
was
guess.
First, they were pretty meek when Roe first came into law, right? Like that.
No, they were
gave-
super loud, right?
Not
You
as
think
not
Christians
loud
weren't
enough
talking about that? Weren't making a big fuss about that?
Not loud enough to not let it happen.
Wait, how would they not let it happen? Do you not like our system? Do you not like
Be
democracy?
louder. No,
Be
louder.
loud. How would being louder make it not happen? What if people
You get
vote against
more
you? What if there's
awareness.
more people? What if people just disagree
Sure.
with you? Will being louder help?
Be louder. Make better arguments.
Make better arguments. Sure, that might convince people. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think-
that's
I
fair.
think-
I think that's a fair thing to say. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I feel like they came up with good enough arguments to overturn it. They were better for the arguments. They're better than the arguments that originally put it into place. And that's what happened, was an evolution of our argument.
Sure, that could be. Yeah.
Yep. So but we're not speaking up loud enough is in the places where we're kind of getting censored a lot.
Mm.
And that I feel like there should be. I'm not really advocating for more offense from Christians, but I
Okay.
do advocate for more defense and safety
Mm.
for Christians and Christian
Safety for
opinion.
Christians. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, like more free, like to protect their speech. I feel like our speech should be better protected, especially on social platforms with the enormous power that nobody voted for the
So-
people who are running them.
So what's an example of that
Um,
speech that isn't protected that you think should be? What's an example of like a statement or I don't know? Would it just be like misgendering people or
Yeah, that would be one of them.
that would be
I
one?
think.
Okay, that's the Christian speech is just to misgender people.
We don't misgender anybody. I've never, because
According to me, a man is a biological male and a woman is a biological female. I am misgendering when I call a man woman. in
Sure.
my view.
Sure, according to you, yeah.
so I don't misgender.
Hmm.
It's my worldview that you misgender.
Sure, that's fine.
So I would like to ask, what do you ask of us Christians? Do you want us to just not be Christians?
No.
Okay.
I think this is a very I mean,
What is it?
it's
that
a little
you-
bit
what is the
it's a little bit
atmosphere?
cringe to say this. This is, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but this phrase, when you're used to domination, equality feels like persecution. I'm sure you've heard that phrase, right? Or have you? Or
No.
no? Okay. So there's from somebody on the outside looking in, it feels like Christians have have had so much power and applied so much direct force that now being at the level of, as you said, making arguments and figuring out how to make better arguments has been something that they just haven't had to do for a long time, and being put kind of with the rest of us, just making arguments for things, trying to make our voice heard and understood and and paid attention to based on the merit of those arguments.
There's a different translation of this reality in my view, but go on.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, when Christians, so okay, so here's a question maybe that'll help clarify, I guess, where we're at. Would you say that Christians or trans people are more persecuted in America? And I guess you can choose whatever domain, if it's legal or cultural or I don't know. I mean,
I would
social.
say Christians are are under very heavy attack
Mm-hmm.
today.
They're under attack in many different fronts.
Mm-hmm.
Like I see one of the reasons I think the war in Gaza is kind of evil is because Christian churches are getting bombed and Christians are getting killed,
Yeah.
and it's kind of swept under the rug and not talked about.
There's like Christian groups that were talking to the IDF and saying there's a church here, like American Christian groups that were talking to the IDF and saying there's a church here. This is like a well-known church.
Yeah.
There's no Hamas here. It's literally all Christians. And the IDF like bombed it, and it was some very significant churches that have been there for like a really long time. Yeah, I agree. That's absolutely a huge issue. Yeah.
It just seems threatening, like a very threatening time for Christians right now. We're getting attacked from all angles, and nobody's talking about it. Nobody's really. Our voices are they're kind of, we need to be a lot louder, because I feel like, we are kind of being persecuted in a heavy way these days. Like it. Of course, it started long ago, but I feel like it's being done in more than just war and aggression. It's also being done socially.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's our duty not to just roll over.
So what's an example? Or let's say list like 3 things. I'm not saying like try to try to put your mind to finding like the best or most significant, or just 3 things, just to 3 things that you feel like ways that Christians are being persecuted. Let's say in America, because in like Gaza in the Middle East, a lot of people are getting hurt in a lot of different ways. But just say to keep it to America for simplicity, what are 3 ways that you see, and we can expand this, but just start with 3 ways that you see Christians being persecuted?
Well, persecuted, just kind of like. So do you remember the video I sent you about the Yuri Bezmenov, the KGB guy,
Mm-hmm.
who
Kind of taught you
the steps of how they would subvert the society within a country in order to take it over without force,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And the first
Sun Tzu.
thing that the first thing that they attack is the religion, because the religion is kind of like the glue. It's kind of like the nails that holds the structure together. And if you take it apart, then that we no longer have a North Star to follow, and we become aimless, and that's how you crumble society. I thought it was a beautiful conclusion to that speech when he put 2 + 2 = 4 on the board, and he said, "This is truth, but no one will ever stand up here and say, I will die for this truth, that 2 + 2
Mm-hmm.
= 4. But we got God and Jesus Christ. This 2 + 2 we can prove, this we cannot. But it's our faith that
Mm-hmm.
gives us reason to die for it." And so it's you have, when you lose something so powerful to drive mankind, it's like, what is the most powerful thing to pull the good out of mankind then thrust that good, the potential out of man into a good direction, when that is gone, then mankind just points his power in any direction. And that's bad, because we could be self-destructive. Whereas the Bible, like what Christianity teaches us, is how to be, how to live together, how to procreate, how to be fruitful and multiply. And the other way, if we don't follow that, then the opposite starts to happen, and we're starting to see that now.
So to pull this back to like a kind of a quick listing of like 3 specific. So
Sure.
yeah.
So, socially, I would say one of the first attacks came from feminism. A lot of the feminists didn't actually see men in particular as the enemy. They saw the nuclear family as the enemy. I think Simone de Beauvoir said herself that until we get rid of the nuclear family, women will never have freedom, or something to that effect.
Could you send me that quote, because that doesn't sound like how she would have phrased
You
that.
type it up.
I've read some. I haven't finished the second sex, but what she talked about was
She said, she said, as long as the family and the myth of the family have not been destroyed, women will still be oppressed. You could Google that.
the myths
it'll
of
link-
wait.
Yeah.
You were the myths of
as long as the family and the myth of the family have not been destroyed, women will still be oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
So
And the
this is
myth
a
of
quote that
maternity
she
and the
said.
maternal instinct have not been destroyed. Yeah, women will still be. Mm-hmm.
All
Yeah.
that.
So
Yeah,
these
she
myths.
said this.
She wants to destroy these
She
myths.
was also, she was addicted to drugs and alcohol. She died an alcoholic.
Wait,
she had some.
Are these ways that Christians are oppressed? That she was an alcoholic, or?
No, I'm just saying that the enemy of Christianity is very easy to spot, because they're usually into occultism. They're against the nuclear family. They don't want mankind to prosper. So the enemies of Christians and the enemies of mankind are very easy to spot, because they all seem to have these traits. Another feminist.
Wait. I'm really trying to pull this to like concrete things that are currently occurring or have occurred, right? Because somebody writing a book,
Well, we have to look
surely
at the
you wouldn't
past
say
in
that
order
that's persecution, right?
No, of course.
Going against the nuclear family is a form of Christian persecution.
So you would say that Simone de Beauvoir writing her book, La Deuxième Sexe, is persecution of Christians?
Spreading anti-Christian propaganda is anti-Christian. Yes.
Okay.
She was raised religious and then swore off religion at the age of 14.
Mm-hmm.
She's it's like I said, the enemies of Christianity are very easy to spot. They make themselves very known. They don't even try to hide it.
I mean, she wrote a book. I don't think she was trying to hide anything, right?
No, I'm saying they don't try to hide the fact that they're enemies of Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that she was more an enemy of patriarchy. There's a lot of ways that Christianity.
Well, that's sure. You
that,
give
but,
Christianity. You try to put a different word to it to make it not as scary to oppose, right?
What? Oh, okay.
You try to
would you say that
God's plan?
I mean, I'm trying to excuse Christianity actually when I say that, right? I'm trying to say that Christianity doesn't have to be patriarchal, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be destroyed in the way that patriarchy
But it does
does.
have a patriarch. The structure of the family does have a ordered structure, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a complementary structure. She just went against it in that she said it herself. She doesn't. The nuclear family is what's keeping women down, not necessarily.
She definitely didn't say. She definitely didn't say nuclear family, surely, right? that wasn't a term
She's
until like
the
50 years
family,
later.
the family, whatever,
Yeah.
the family, the family.
She
I
said
mean,
that the myth of the family, myth of
yeah,
maternity. Yeah.
whatever the fuck she meant by that. But I mean, what?
Just simply a monstrous person. Very couldn't be more evil. Um,
I
and
disagree,
then there's
but
other.
wait, wait.
Well, of
So
course
I just
you
want to
do,
clarify.
but
So for your list of three, the first one is Simone de Beauvoir wrote this book that
feminism,
feminism. But
feminism.
feminism isn't. So the fact that there's an ideology out there that is fighting for the equality of women, that is persecution of Christians. That's like a concrete thing that, like, you wake up and you're like, feminism exists. Like we're being persecuted.
It's an enemy to. It is in opposition to God's command that we go forth and be fruitful and multiply.
Okay. Let me. Okay. So the kinds of things that I was thinking of are like, um, somebody in a classroom in a university says, somebody asks, "Oh, what are you doing Sunday?" It's like, "Oh, I'm going to church." It's like, "Oh, you go to church? You're one of those loser Christian people. Like that's so uncool." That's a kind of very concrete, like particular. That's like a social thing that's become more right.
That is
Edgy
not.
edgy atheists saying like, "Oh, you're a superstitious loser for believing in Christianity." That's a kind of like concrete. I
Individual
wouldn't put that at the
individual
top of a text, but
interactions
like, oh my gosh,
individual
Wick,
interactions will never
thank you so much
be
for the raid.
as yo, what up?
For the raid, awesome.
Yeah, individual actions like that will never be as damaging as large movements like feminism. That I want to focus on what's doing large scale damage, right?
Okay, so I'm trying to I'm trying to help you out here because it feels like if you were to say my people are being persecuted
feel like I need
because there's other people out there that believe differently about the world than I do.
No, that we allow that these ideas to just kind of fester unchallenged. They need to be challenged. We need to be more loud and confront these ideas. And the people with the large platforms in America, especially, they need to allow for us to have the open conversation and we need to have equal representation in our communications.
So you don't think that there's people loudly out there on big channels saying that feminism is bad?
And no, I'm saying that there should not be like damnation. Well, the thing is that there's an unequal amount of representation. You're saying big channels, but a big channel will never be as big as like channel 2, channel 4, like on television.
Like BBC
It's
channel?
like
BBC 4
or BBC. Well, I don't
two
get
channel
BBC,
2?
but our local TV stations and the people that control like 6 news organizations.
It was
or
like
something
Rupert
like
Murdoch.
That. Like, yeah, like I
I
don't
mean,
think we have.
he's like a Christian, right? And he's super opposed to feminism, isn't he?
I mean, that's one
Of the 6?
one person. Yeah, but it's like I feel like
there aren't really enough like okay, in media, like there's another thing that we talked about previously is like how they repurpose characters and stuff like that. I feel like that is done for no good reason other than to just erase the history of the people who originally created it.
So like Mary Jane being like black and brown haired instead of white and red headed. That's a persecution of Christians.
No, that not particularly
Okay.
is. I'm just saying. I'm just giving you examples how we have. If we object to that, we have no power in them. Like they have all the power in making those changes. They'll never. And they're already a super large,
So what's the
media
persecution?
company in the world.
What's an example of the persecution?
the persecution would be probably just like the social attitudes mostly, like negative social attitudes
Toward.
towards Christian beliefs, like calling Christians homophobic,
Yep.
or transphobic, like
Mm-hmm.
putting negative labels on them, I would say is pretty bad.
And you would say,
when it's not true.
okay, sure, yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. What's like a third? What's like a third thing?
Did you want to expand on that second thing, or did you want to just move on to?
I mean, we could expand. I was looking for kind of bite size. I'm happy to expand this, but
I think definitely like some aspects of socialism kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It seems to not be great for humanity, so in turn it's not great for Christians, and Christians are pro-humanity.
So how
I
how
think
do you?
any system
Yeah.
that goes against any system that seems counterintuitive to human flourishing, I would say is kind of an attack on Christians in a way.
So, how would you feel about me making the distinction between something that is against the goals of Christians and something that is a persecution of Christians? So let me give you an example. So so if
We're not being hunted down and killed in the streets of America, if that's what you're asking,
sure, I mean that would be a very concrete.
or like lynched or anything.
Yeah,
like that. Like,
right.
I mean,
Well, so
maybe
like
it does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't. It never happens. Churches are burned and stuff like that. I see that as definitely.
So like here's an example.
Terrorism.
So if a nuclear war broke out and all of human life was extinguished, that would be against the goals of Christians, right? To have human flourishing, right? But that wouldn't be that'd be very bad, right? But that wouldn't be a persecution of Christians, surely, right? Because it's just everybody just perishing, right?
That would be Christians failing somewhere. Or,
Sure, yeah.
Or triumph
Could be.
of
Or triumph,
somewhere,
depending on what they want.
Triumph of evil. A triumph of evil.
Yeah.
It's either a failure of Christians or a triumph of evil or something.
But something can be against the goals of Christians without necessarily being a persecution of Christians. So if socialism you see as being against human flourishing, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a persecution of Christians. So another example would be like Soviet Union, they shut down a lot of churches, right? That would be like a very specific, very direct, very concrete.
So another thing I would
Christians.
say is the opposition to Christianity having unequal power, right? So let's say right now we can't have prayers in school, right? And but we can still have like Trans Awareness Day or gay book reading or whatever, right? Like in schools, like that's an unequal representation.
Well, you can read Christian books.
Religions but you could read
There's Christian books,
but it's not. There's no like Christian Day of Appreciation or anything like that.
Maybe there should be.
Christian Day of recognition, like there's none of that. Like so, it seems to be like an unequal power in a public, like in
systems. That seems like
an awfully, that doesn't seem equal at all. That seems like Christians getting their voices shut down, and the opposition to them is being magnified.
Okay, so
not only that, it's being put on their children against their will in most cases, and there's a lot of like court cases and stuff, I guess, as a result of that. Another, like the first thing I said is like, okay, labeling Christians as bad or bigoted or what or homophobic, transphobic, because we won't lie, basically. So like if you asked me to not misgender or let's say if you were a transgender and you asked me not to misgender you're asking me to lie. And lying is not something we Christians can do. It's destroying ourselves to do that. So it's a really big and heavy ask of us.
I don't think I agree with that it's a lie.
Well, it's not yours. It's not yours to agree with.
No. I mean, I don't think we're going to. we'll probably never agree with it. We definitely won't agree with it in the next couple minutes. Uh, um, but that's fine. I don't want to derail, but to recap, three things, not necessarily the biggest things, but just three things that you would point to as persecution of Christians in America today are.
We don't. I mean, like I don't need to use the word persecution in order to get my point across.
Okay.
Really.
Well, I mean that's.
Yeah.
I mean that's what we've been talking about. So let's stick with it. I mean,
either a suppression or talk or trying to make like negative light of Christians in society is.
okay.
Is,
I mean, are you downgrading from persecution? Do you no longer feel like that's appropriate, or
persecution is happening?
it's not. If you want to talk about America specifically, I'll use a different word. But like
okay, so you would say worldwide there is persecution of Christians, but in America not so much.
There are actual
but not in
Christians
America.
Getting blown up in other places.
Oh, sure.
We're not getting blown up in here.
I mean, if you're looking across the world, every type of people is being persecuted somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
but what I'm
talking about in America today because that's where we live, and at least just to start it somewhere because the world is big.
So obviously, our enemy is smart enough not to go to open war with us in America. So that you have to use subversion, right? Just
so to recap,
so
so three things that you would point out, not necessarily the biggest things or the most critical, but at least just three things to start with for Christians being persecuted in America.
Atheism, definitely, like atheists. Atheists are not our friends for sure.
So
they've done huge damage. And
so this list will keep growing, but I just want to cut it somewhere at least just to recap. So the fact that some people are atheists and
secularism
and don't believe in Christianity, the fact that some people are feminists and believe that Christianity props up like a patriarchal structure, Christians being called homophobic, transphobic. Let's see.
People being bigoted towards Christians.
Can you give like a specific way of people being bigoted just to...
Yeah, like saying your God's not real and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah. Somebody kind of talking down to the belief system of you believe in Sky Daddy, whatever, something like that.
Yeah, all that stuff. So it's kind of like it's the same thing as if I misgender someone, right?
Yeah. So that's exactly what I wanted to go to. So, not to put these things as a head-to-head or say that only one group can ever feel persecution or anything like that, but just to see, because I think we're coming at this from very different perspectives and see if we can gain some shared understanding. Because I want to understand the ways that you feel persecuted, and I want you to understand the ways that trans people feel persecuted. Sure. So if I were to list say three things.
So let's say if I start with feminism and I tell you that because of feminism, when Christians see an ideology that is against the family, and then they see the author of that ideology that is a degenerate who engages in drugs, alcoholism, practices in the occult, is friendly with communist regimes, making trips to China and Russia, and just kind of like being like fawning over the way they run their governments at the time. When they see that, can you really blame them for thinking this is a demon trying to destroy us?
I'm not sure if you'll be very satisfied with that answer.
I'm trying to give you. Well, I'm just trying to give you.
Okay, sure. That's your perspective. Okay.
This is how.
I didn't know if that was rhetorical or not. Okay. I get where you're coming from.
Someone who has sworn off God
has come up with this ideology was going against God's plan.
Right.
Sure. Wait. Okay. So we've done. Yeah.
She seduced underage girls that she taught, and there was complaints from the parents that she had molested their young women in the schools that she taught at. Just a fairly monstrous person,
Mm-hmm.
and then they import this ideology they've kind of been at the head at, makes its way over here, and slowly starts creating the same type of degeneracy that results in having less families and going against what God asked of us. It's not hard to kind of sympathize with Christians in that they have an enemy who is effectively causing real harm
Sure. So
in their view.
I do want to try to hear like both of the two sides in play on this, and I think we've heard not a complete. Obviously, we'll keep talking about this, but I think we've heard something from the side of Christians, the ways that persecution is felt. So atheists don't believe in God, don't want other people to believe in God. Feminists see Christianity as propping up patriarchy and therefore should have less power. Christians
They see family
getting
as
their
the
beliefs
thing that's
trashed.
holding women's back. That what's holding
Yeah,
back
wait.
freedoms of the
So
family. Yeah,
wait,
I get it.
wait. So I'm doing a recap.
What-
So we'll be looping forever if I try to recap and then you expand. Right. So
No, I didn't expand. That was my original. That was my.
Mhm.
It is exactly. They are an enemy of exactly the thing I'm trying to promote and protect, which is the family and the creation of family.
Mhm.
They say directly in their language that the thing keeping women down is the myth of the family.
Wait. So I'm not asking for you to justify further. I'm just trying to recap what it is that you've said.
Right. I know. I wanted you to get that accurate.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So persecution for Christians are feminists want to alter in some way the family structure in a way that you see as being very destructive.
Destroy the family structure.
Very, very destructive. Yeah. Atheists.
Not alter.
Sure. Okay. They want
the destruction of the family. Here, look. There are other very famous.
Well, wait. Okay. So we'll be going forever on this if we don't cut it somewhere. No. I don't need you to bolster your argument because this isn't an argument, right? This isn't an argument. So I don't need you to further bolster or justify any perspective. I just want to hear what just the tip of the iceberg of what that perspective is, and we can keep expanding it, right? So there's these different things that you've highlighted as ways that persecution is felt for Christians, and then I wanted to highlight for you some of the ways that persecution might be experienced for trans people in America, so that we can have a little bit more shared understanding. So several things that might feel like persecution for trans people are the fact that legally, just recently, in Trump's term, he made it not possible for trans people to serve in the military, and people who are already serving in the military who are trans were kicked out of the military, and some justifications were made that this would be expensive, but a lot less is spent and would be spent on any kind of trans-specific healthcare than is spent on Viagra by the military every year. So that's something that feels like it kind of falls flat. It's people directly losing their jobs, losing their career. So that's one thing. So another thing that might be experienced as persecution for trans people are the very, very high rate of murders of trans people, especially Black and Indigenous trans people, and especially
can we be
trans
careful
women.
there, because if we point out any number of murders of trans people, I would just point out probably a greater amount of murders of Christian people
per capita, right? So that's what we're talking about, right?
Sure.
Right. I mean that's the thing that's relevant, right?
Okay.
Right, because if you said right, I mean, do we need to justify that further? Is that a
They're a
right?
very tiny minority, but I'm just saying.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
Because,
sure.
6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust, which is a lot of, for Jews, that's a lot of people. But for Christians, that would be a drop of the bucket. Still bad, but a
Yeah.
small
Yep.
percentage, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um,
hmm
so we talk about per capita generally. So the very high rate of murder of trans and especially Black and Indigenous trans people, and the rate of murder um, by domestic partners, lovers, and the fact that the trans panic defense is still on the books in a number of states as if if I am with a trans person and we have some kind of romantic or sexual relationship connection, and I realize that they're trans, and I freak out and I
They
murder
stealth you,
them.
you mean?
Sorry,
You talking about getting stealthed by a trans person?
no.
Like them not telling you, not
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
not.
If I go on a date with somebody and they don't tell me that
Uh-huh.
they're trans, and we go back to their place or mine, and we start getting undressed, and at some point I realize that they're trans, and I murder them, or I kill them, I end their life, then that's a viable defense in a lot of places as not being considered murder. So
Okay, I understand why that is, but sure, we don't have to.
I mean, sure, right? That's the perspective that somebody might feel persecuted if they can be
Rape
murdered,
that they sometimes
right?
they feel like, oh, maybe I'm being in a way in akin to rape in this situation, and
You feel
that's
like
the
you're being raped
justification.
if you wanted to have sex with somebody and then you find out
If
that they're of a
someone,
different sex.
yeah,
You'd feel raped.
if well, you feel raped. Like, let's say if a woman says, I want, I'm fine with going back to your place and having sex, and
Hmm.
instead you make her have anal sex, and she's like, well, that's not the sex I agreed to have sex with
Wait,
you.
but
That
but
wasn't
in
the.
that situation, somebody was penetrated, right? So that's like
uh
part a little bit related to the
oh,
definition of
well,
rape,
not
right?
okay. Well, not no, not even. We could just say the
Guy
guy.
is saying, well, I said I wanted to have sex with you too, but I meant anal sex, actually.
And then you don't
And
have
then,
anal sex and someone feels raped.
Or, well, nobody else is there. What if they just say, well, then he tried to force me to have anal sex
Oh,
with
so
you,
then
so
he
I
then he
killed
rapes
him.
her. That would be rape,
No,
100%.
he tried to rape me and then I killed him.
Oh, sure. If somebody tries to rape you and you kill them,
Right.
that's self-defense, yeah. If they if
Right. But
they
if
if they don't try to rape
mhm.
you, it's probably not rape,
Okay,
right?
but you're saying they can go into court and say that, oh, I killed this person merely because they revealed to me that they weren't the sex that I thought they were. You're saying that is a legal
Yeah,
defense?
here, let me here's the American Bar Association. Yeah. Right. So this is a huge part. So this is why we're doing this, right? To have a shared understanding of issues that different groups
Yeah.
face. I've definitely heard of some of the things that you've mentioned, but I don't have the perspective of being a Christian, and so having like a firsthand understanding of what that feels like.
Yeah.
And these are things that are
Like
useful to understand. Sorry.
well, like, another thing, like Candace Owens being fired for tweeting Christ is King. Like, I think that is kind of like,
Wait, fired
um,
from the Daily Wire?
yeah.
No, that's not what she was fired.
Oh, well, I'm glad that's not the reason she
No,
was
it had
fired.
nothing. No, 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 absolutely not. Um,
Gotcha. Okay.
just to correct. I mean, I know you get a lot of like misinformation from somewhere, uh, but
Well,
just to
that
correct
was
this,
I don't get a
um,
lot of misinformation. That's one
well, you've
thing
well
that I
you've
might have been.
you've posted a number of things in the
I
Discord
didn't.
that were misinformation. So
Oh, interesting.
I don't know.
I would like to know which
Oh,
ones.
I mean, I said at the time, right? So you posted this thing that the shoot, what was the name of the sports organization that govern swimming, whatever. It's not the NCAA.
Oh yeah,
Um,
but I didn't say like this is truth.
I kind of brought it forward like, what does everyone think of this? And then
okay, but you didn't believe that that
someone,
was true. The
I had
meme
no
that
way.
said that, you didn't believe that it was true.
No, I didn't do any further investigation into it. I brought it into the
Okay.
Discord, and then
So
I knew that
you were totally
you would be
ambivalent
more
about whether it was
familiar.
true, or
I knew that you would be more familiar with it than me.
why did you think that?
Right. Because you're more
I hadn't heard
more
anything about
advocate.
that. You found out about that that
I
sentiment
just
being out there
figured
that that had happened. You know, I didn't know about it until
I
you posted about it.
okay, I didn't know. I just figured that since you're kind of an advocate for trans rights, that you would be more familiar than I am with these things, and it turned out you knew more about it than I did. So
No, no, I didn't. I mean, you post
oh,
this meme that said
you
that.
found out about it.
Yeah,
You
you post this meme that
yeah.
Leah Thomas's
I don't think it was
trophies
a
were.
meme. I think it was like a fake. It was like a fake news article.
I mean, where did you find that in the first place? How did you come across that?
It was just like off Facebook. I think there was
Yeah.
like a Facebook group, I
Hmm.
believe.
Yeah, yeah. So that's exactly. I was okay in my. I kind of guessed Facebook just by the formatting. Something about it read more like Facebook than Twitter to me.
Yeah,
Just the font selection, something. But yeah, I was just curious, like where you had come across that. Um,
yeah,
do you
yeah.
remember
There's
the
just like a
exact
bunch of different.
source? You know, was it wasn't a friend, or it was like a.
No, it was a
Sometimes I
group,
get like one-off things that show up on
like a
Facebook. That
Facebook group. Like I just,
was it
I
from a
scroll
particular
down my
group, or?
feed. Yeah, it's
Hmm.
from a particular group.
Yeah, so I'd be careful about anything posted by
Well,
that group and just the
I would never
factual.
say like this is true, right? Like from a Facebook group. I was
Well,
just
Kind of prompting the conversation like,
yeah.
hey, is this true? And
Hmm.
then like I didn't say, oh, look at what happened, right?
Hmm.
I just kind of posted it like, hey, does this check out? And then turned out it didn't.
Right. So I guess this
Yeah,
would
I didn't
be,
make a truth
yeah.
statement or anything.
So this could be part of, part of number three. I think we did more than three for Christians, so maybe we'll do a little bit more than three for trans community. But
Yeah,
there's like
I
a
do have
ton
to
of.
wrap up in like 5 minutes though,
Oh, okay.
because this was the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can start here next time because, um,
Okay.
yeah, we didn't really get to thoroughly go through this. But I mean,
What was the other thing you wanted to
so
go through, or
which is that there's a massive amount of people and media flying around from every direction that is
Mhm.
that is demonizing, that is making up lies, that is directly threatening, that is calling for the end of this group of people that themselves are not a religion or a political perspective or something that is even a belief. This is just,
well, they
this is just
what group is
who they
this?
are. Trans people.
Oh, well, we could arguably believe that it's a religion for sure.
N-
We
I mean,
we don't recognize
I
that there's any
I
physical
won't,
science related to
yeah,
it.
I won't say no to discussing that with you, but I don't
Yeah.
think that it's arguable that being trans is a religion. If you wanted to argue
Well,
that it's an
no,
ideology, maybe there's something to that, but it's not a
it's not
it's
being
surely
trans.
not a religion. There's no supernatural or
Yeah. The thing
um,
is that there's no. Well, we don't know that, right?
we
Because
don't know that.
there's no
How could we not know
physical
that?
science because there's no physical scientific link to being trans that we know
What
of.
does that mean? If somebody, so before we understood
If we
genetics, some people had red hair, right? We don't know exactly why that is, but we do see that people have red hair. It doesn't make it a religion that we don't know like where that comes from exactly.
people who have red hair have been around for upon thousands of
Yeah,
years,
and
and
trans
we're
people
only
have been around for
now.
thousands of years.
Well, I think we not at the. I think we might just disagree there. But
Okay, that's fine. I can maybe
yeah,
next time I can pull together so I can show you a little bit about the history of
but
trans people. Then
not
it's
in the
probably a good
way
place
that
to
they
start.
exist. Not the ones that
Get the surgeries, take the hormones and stuff like that. It's like those
Oh,
trans
are you
people.
you're talking about like procedures for medical transition are relatively
Yeah, we
recent?
didn't. Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure. That's accurate. Yeah.
yeah. That's where it starts to get like a little more creepy because now you're in especially with the things like related to puberty blockers and stuff like that. Now you're eliminating people's ability to procreate, and
Right.
that's
And
like
that's the main
damaging, right?
thing about the human condition.
Yep.
Okay. Sure.
That but
So just to recap now for sort of done this a little bit for Christian people. We'll have to come back to this for trans people because I want to have at least like equal time
yeah,
to spend on that. But just to recap
yeah.
now, and then we can recap when we talk next time.
Hmm.
For trans people, the kind of persecutions are um, losing jobs just for being trans, not for saying anything anywhere or to anybody. Losing their jobs,
Hmm.
being murdered, being vilified in the media, not for anything that they've ever said or ever done. Um,
Hmm.
those are the kinds of things, and being, ousted from their communities, being
Are
thrown
you
out by
really
their
seeing them being
parents.
vilified in the media? I guess I'm just not seeing that lately. I'm
I
seeing
mean,
them
there's
celebrated in
the
the
meme that we
media.
were just talking about. That's related to the media furor that's come up around Leah Thomas and the kind of lies and misinformation and bad
Oh,
faith
that's
reporting
the
around
type
it,
of
right?
kind of media you're talking about. Well, I mean,
I
they
mean,
get
I
a
mean
lot
that's
of
extremely
favorable.
popular media, right? This is if you ask somebody who's a Republican, have they heard of Leah Thomas? My guess is
That's
that
not
a
the
high
media that's
percentage
going
of
to
them would
influence
have.
children, though. The
Sorry,
difference there is
what is
that's
that?
not the type of media. That's not the type of media that's going to influence children, though.
That's going to
Trans
influence
people have a
children. What does that have to do
yeah,
with anything?
because trans people are celebrated in media that is
In some
portrayed
media,
to children.
I mean,
For,
in lots of media to
yeah,
lots of other children, they're vilified.
we don't have, uh, to my knowledge, they don't
And
celebrate
the
like
and the books that celebrate trans people are largely being banned or not. I don't want to say largely in terms of I would want to quantify the exact percentage, but a lot of those books are being banned. Some of them are threatened to be burned, which again,
yeah.
you know, there's for trans people, I can say this, being Jewish as well as a minority, there's something, when people start banning books, start talking about book banning, start talking about eliminating people from life. When you're a minority, not to say that Christians can't have fears about things, and Christians have been minorities in places and have been persecuted in places in a very,
Hmm.
direct, like murderous way. But
Yeah.
when you are currently a minority, those are the kind of things that do concern you a lot, right? Because that does
Sure.
sometimes happen where, you have inquisitions or you have holocausts.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I'm not too worried about stuff like that because we do have
for
a
Christians
very
or
good.
for trans people,
No, for trans people, we do
you're
have
not
very
worried
good
about that.
laws. We have a very good set of laws in place that all those things, murdering them and stuff like that, is very bad. We already have laws against that. People should not do that. Murder is
Well,
evil,
I mean,
right? So
so the thing I just sent in here, I'll just read about this. So, the gay trans legal panic legal defense legitimizes and excuses violent and lethal behavior against members of the LGBTQ community. The defense is
yeah,
defined by the LGBT bar as a legal strategy, which asks a jury to find that a victim's sexual orientation or gender identity is to blame for the defendant's violent reaction, including murder. This legally sanctioned discrimination against one's sexual orientation and gender identity must cease. Right? So when you're talking
State
about
is
it's
this in?
illegal,
Is this only in one state or
where is this?
no, this is so it's everywhere except for 8 states.
I see.
So it's
I'll have to look more
40,
into that to
42
see
states.
what exactly. I want to see exactly, kind of get more knowledge on that, so I can see where
Hmm.
the law is on that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
definitely, I think. But I guess I just have my parting question to you, and
Mm-hmm.
if you can't answer it in a concise way, that's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of curious, like, if us Christians are a very large minority of the voting bloc, we're I think a
A very
majority
large
still of.
minority.
I mean, I'm sorry, a majority,
Oh,
majority
okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Very large majority
of
of
the voting bloc of the
Mm-hmm.
country, right? And we have a specific kind of doctrine of duties and things that
Mm-hmm.
seem to be self-evidently beneficial for mankind. And this is the country we're in, and the power of the vote is ours to make. And under those conditions, what do you what do you ask of us?
Hmm. If I could make a case, like I would like for you to legislatively pass this, or like ask in what way?
Yeah, like how how could you basically in what way could you imagine that it would be a fair ask of us to go against our beliefs?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a fair and that's a very I like that question a lot because the kinds of things that I would ask of Christians are to make space for other types of people to exist, even if the ways that they live are ways that you think are like metaphysically fundamentally wrong, right? So for somebody to be allowed to practice like witchcraft in their home, even though you think that's of the devil, that's the kind of thing that I can understand might be a difficult ask, but I think is really critical, um, that people be allowed to live their lives in ways that aren't stopping others from living their lives. Maybe if you think somebody practicing witchcraft, puts a spell on the country that makes it, fall apart in some way, causes curses.
Well,
I could
what
see a
about
connection
animal
there, but
rights?
hmm?
What about animals? What about animal rights when it comes to witchcraft?
um, when it comes,
Sacrificing of sacrificing of like chickens and other animals that is
that's not a
a
thing that
common.
that's not a thing that any witches I know do.
Oh, I maybe we're holding two different definitions of
It sounds
witchcraft.
is
There's
that
witchcraft.
like voodoo or something? Is that a
Yeah, that's witchcraft.
that's no, those are unrelated.
It's a type of.
They're from different parts of the
Oh,
world.
well,
Um,
it still kind of falls under the same category.
no, I mean it's not. Those are very different things. One is from I think like the Caribbean, and
Let's see. Hold on
one is
here.
from like Europe. Um,
Is that the? Let's see what the definition of witchcraft is.
I mean I'm talking about Wiccans, right?
Oh, okay. So you would make a distinction for Wiccans, is what you're
I
trying to
mean
say?
voodoo is yeah, practice parts of the
It's the
Caribbean,
practice of
Haiti.
magic,
I
yeah,
mean these are
especially for
very
evil
very
purposes.
different.
Look, so witchcraft, religious practice involving magic and affinity with nature, usually within the pagan tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Bewitching or fascinating,
Yeah, so that's more like
attraction, or
Wiccan.
charm. Yeah.
Voodoo is like a
Well,
very
why
different
would
thing. It's
you? Okay,
African. This is like African versus European.
right. But I understand your ask, and it's perfectly fine. So
Mm-hmm.
so you would ask us, even though we have the power to not allow something that goes against our faith,
Mm-hmm.
you would ask us to go against our faith. And
I would ask you to look at the kinds of things that.
I don't think
Um,
there's a different way you could put it.
mhm. I mean, if it's the case that you and all Christians in America believe that everybody must be Christian in a very particular way, must live in a
No,
very
they're
particular
just
way, or
that's not.
or or it's just wrong and evil, then I guess there's
We just
nothing
can't
really I can
allow
ask of you, right?
we can't allow enemies of Christians to fester and get stronger and violate against us.
Is
That's
there
what
anything that
we're not
somebody
the
can live differently than you that is not an enemy of you?
what we're just not allowed to tolerate anything that would be damaging towards Christianity.
So what's an example? What's an example of something like that?
Like
What's a different
letting
belief system or way of being, lifestyle,
like
anything?
devil worship maybe,
Is
or
is what?
like devil worship maybe,
Wait, so I'm saying what's something
or
that's a different way of being that would not be an enemy of Christianity? Is there anything that's neutral, or is it just
oh
Christians and everything else is an enemy?
no. If it, as long as it's not something that persecutes against Christians and what we're and our duties, then it's not an enemy of
So
us.
what's an example of something like that?
So, what's an example of something that would go against Christianity? Like is that
Something
what
that
you're
would
asking?
go against something that would be, different than what Christianity would say is the right way to be, but is not an enemy.
Okay, so like,
Um, I would say like, hmm, I mean, there's a bunch of examples. Like other religions, like Buddhists,
Okay.
like they're not gonna harm Christians, right? Like they're not in our way. They're not bothering us. Um,
I mean,
they
I don't
don't
know.
speak out against us.
I mean, there's a lot of Buddhists, who talk about kind of similar to, like the monks we were talking about. There's Buddhist monks who just kind of, live in a cave somewhere or just go off
Mhm.
and meditate and maybe don't have any human contact, certainly are celibate.
Mhm. Well, you asked for an
Um,
example, and that was the one I
hmm
thought of.
hmm
So,
So
but
potentially
yeah,
Buddhists, but not the kind of like monkly parts of that.
it could be. What would be wrong with being a monk?
I mean, you would be not reproducing.
That's it's fine to not reproduce. I'm just
What?
saying that if
Wait, what do you
I mean
mean?
if it's your choice to just simply
Hmm.
not not reproduce, sometimes it's not your choice. Sometimes it's just the circumstances that life put on you or something, but you're not you're kind of in a purgatory, you know you're not necessarily in violation, but you're not necessarily helping either. Purgatory is neither heaven or hell. It's just kind of this stuck
Yeah, no,
space
no,
in
no.
between.
I know what purgatory is.
Yeah.
Although I think it's gone now again, right? I'm trying to remember.
Well, I'm just kind of using the
No,
it
I
as
know.
like a
But wait, so not reproducing is fine. If you choose to not reproduce,
not,
that's fine.
not reproducing.
is not always your choice. We know realistically not every human
Oh, sure. If
has
somebody is born
right.
infertile, that's not a sin, right? But
Right.
if somebody who's Buddhist decides to become a monk and be celibate and devote
Hmm.
themselves to meditation, that's also fine.
Well, they're not. The thing is, they're not damaging Christians by doing that.
Okay,
There's no offensive action towards Christianity by doing that.
but if somebody is gay and they don't reproduce,
If they're just having sodomy, like
well,
the
let's
the
say,
the, the thing is not being gay. Like I said earlier, being gay in itself is not the sin.
hmm
The it's and the enemy of our you know of a healthy birth rate is not just simply existing as gay.
hmm
It's making the gay lifestyle more normalized is
Mhm.
what's going to further contribute to the furthering fall.
Okay.
And, you know, because it's going to
So
you're never going
normalizing
to produce as many
so
kids
normalizing Buddhism, or the aspects of Buddhism that are monkhood and celibacy, that would be an enemy of Christianity.
if you said that you needed to replace Christianity with this ideology,
Hmm.
now you're going against Christianity.
Okay.
Yes.
If you say gay people can be gay and they can get married and they can adopt kids or have kids or whatever, but we don't need to replace Christians with being gay, then that would be fine.
I'm not sure what you're saying. You're no, if you're normalizing being gay, then you're normalizing a relationship that does not result in natural birth
If you're
between that
if you're
between that couple.
if you're normalizing being a Buddhist,
You're
you might be
normalizing.
normalizing being a monk and not reproducing. Do you see what I'm
Uh,
saying?
yeah. I'm sure if we saw that getting on a large enough scale, it could be a problem.
Okay, so being gay is something that you're like, oh wow, this is kind of growing out of control. That's the
So that it's contributing towards the same problem. So I would say like that's definitely not something we need to promote right now.
okay. But
Like I
if
would
you saw
like
people becoming
Christians.
Buddhist at like a large rate, suddenly there's an explosion of Buddhists in America. A ton of them are becoming monks and they're celibate and they're meditating. You'd be like, oh shit, this is like we got to do something about this. This is against Christianity. This is an enemy.
The difference is that if that's happening as a result of you know those ideologies being pushed into our schools and into media and social media and stuff like that,
It's okay to be a Buddhist. If they were giving those books to kids, you'd be against it. You'd think
or
this
but the
is
thing is the
demonic.
problem here the reason why we can't draw a direct dichotomy here is that you know the people from, let's say, the secular humanist side
Hmm.
say we need to do away with Christianity. That's
No,
the
not
difference.
necessarily.
Well, that's the I have not seen anyone
No,
say
I mean,
that.
not all atheists are anti-theists. Those are, those are
Sure,
different
but
positions, right?
a lot of the most famous ones are. But I think I'm sorry, I kind of like dragged it out past where my wife
Yeah,
needed me
sure,
to
sure. You
go.
gotta go.
It's very interesting. You know, I hate just like pulling out and stuff
No, I mean this is great.
of
We
the
got in
conversation,
a
but
good like couple hours. Also much
yeah,
earlier. If let me know just in general anytime you have kind of time during the day, and this works great for me being on the East Coast. So
yeah. Maybe maybe Friday to
Friday's not gonna
continue.
work, but
Oh, Friday. Okay.
or this Friday anyway. But
Well, we'll keep in
in
touch in the
general, yeah,
Discord, and we'll figure something out.
yeah.
But
No, this is
I
great.
enjoyed the
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I think now maybe we have more common understanding of each other's views. I mean, hopefully you
I
understand mine a little
I'm
more.
gonna be honest.
I
I'm
was
not
just
sure if I
bringing.
do.
You're not sure if you do.
I'm not
Okay.
sure if I do.
Okay.
I feel like you say one thing, and I think I understand you, and I think I know what you mean, and then you say the next thing, and it feels like it wipes away the understanding that I thought I had from the first thing.
Yeah. Well, so, I
Um,
mean, overall, like if I was to put it into the most concise way, is I would be fine with if gay people just had they were allowed to exist and had all the same rights and protections as everybody, right? But just maybe not so much of a voice, not so celebrated. I would be fine with that. Like the culture and everything not being so normalized and celebrated. Less normalized, less celebrated, more propping up of Christian values,
so
at
you,
least on
yeah.
a cultural level. Yeah.
So you
That's what I
think
would that's what I'm advocating for because I feel like our species needs it because you're getting scarily close to like a free fall, and I definitely would not want any other pressures being put on our birth rates right now. So any
Mm.
ones that we could socially cure, I'm all for. And not and when I say cure, I don't mean violently at all. So
So you think it's
but
okay to
at
be
the
gay,
same
but you
time,
don't want people saying the phrase "it's okay to be gay" a lot.
I don't want unequal representation like I was talking about earlier. Like we get gay
You think if there's a Pride
trans
Month, there should be like a Christianity month?
I don't
I
even
mean,
think
I'm not
maybe
against
there's
that, honestly. That I feel like, yeah, there's a lot people can learn.
yeah, maybe Pride Month should be a little more toned down. I don't know. Like we could talk about that more, but yeah, definitely there's ways to balance out
what we need for humanity at a given time.
time, right? And sometimes desperate desperate times call for desperate measures.
I think
So
desperate measures would
we'll
be a really awesome, flamboyant Christianity Pride Month. I think that would be the cure.
all right. Well, you have a good one, man.
Good to see you. Take care.
All right. Peace.
Bye.